I'm Brandon,
And I'm Brandon.
and welcome back to Apollo City Comics, your anything and everything comic book podcast. We're here, dude, approaching our 4 year anniversary. Do you realize that? Like Apollo's turning 4 at the end of October, so it's
That mean,
yeah. And then you've
oh,
been on for what, three of those birthday episodes? I don't fucking know. You've been
oh
on for a
man,
while.
yeah.
You've
I
been
think you were like a
basically,
year in of like actual recording, and then that's when I came in. Oh my
yeah.
god, yeah. No, 2020. So we're going into it's like 2 years. We're going into the third year for
Yeah,
me in
something
a
like
way.
that. Yeah, you were like
Yeah.
segueing in at that point. But yeah, wild. So we're gonna do a live episode with a bunch of friends come early November, and we'll be revealing all that pretty soon. And we've had a continuous instead of horror month, we got suckered into doing this thing called LanchTober, and all because of our main man that we're gonna introduce. But first, grab your cup of coffee that you probably got from Coffee and a Comic at coffeeatocomic.com, where you could get all your fucking books bagged and boarded with free coffee in your package. Like, dude, how do you miss out on that? Why are you guys not ordering from Frank all the time? Because who likes bagging and boarding books? And you know what? The energy you're going to get from the coffee that you would use to bag and board books, guess what? You can just read your comics right away because your books are already bagged and fucking boarded. So, coffeeandacomic.com. Go hit up Frank. He's our boy. Just there's a 15% discount code. And then shipping rates went up. Dude, and you're getting 15% off for bagged and boarded. Why you might even talk about this more. Go order from coffeeandacomic.com.
Get
Um
your coffee and comics, damn
and, and you know, we have the Punk Anthology still going on right now. Submissions are still open. We're going on to the end of November. We've had a phenomenal outcome. Everyone's been so awesome. And thank you for reaching out, asking questions. I'm getting to all of you guys as much as I can, as fast as possible. So thank you for your patience. But can keep sending them in. We're taking them to the end of November, and we're getting some wild, cool stuff. I've only glimpsed at things, and we're going to be reviewing it all and putting it all together and announcing and talking to you people. So we're super excited for this. And you know what? It's all due because of the man we have on today. We have Mark from Lesser Known Comics. Hello, Mark.
Welcome back.
Hey guys,
Hi.
good to be back. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's been, fuck, dude, like what, 2 years?
Has it been 2 years already? I don't even remember.
Have I known you for 2 years? Didn't we do this in 2020?
It's probably like a year and a half.
Year and a half?
Year and a
Yeah,
half,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
sounds
been
right.
2021.
Was
Yeah.
it 2021? Oh, wow, okay.
It was definitely
Yeah.
2021.
Is that when we were doing interview? I feel like it was so far back. I don't even remember. Yeah, it's been a minute. But you know what? Everyone sees us hang out all the time, so it's not like it's been a minute in a sense. But it's good to have you on the show. We get to like talk about stuff on my show finally, because I keep on doing I don't know shit about comics the last couple weeks, but you guys should all hit up and check out the last few episodes because Mark and I have been hanging out on those, and we had some awesome guests with us. But we're here to talk about you and your new book. Mark, you have a comic coming out, and I'm pretty hyped about it. Either them or us. Tell us about it. Where did this come from? What is this? Why are you writing a book? You're running
Why
a
are
comic
you
book company.
writing a book? Hey, the guy that started a comic book company. Why are you writing?
It's accidentally started a comic book company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. So 2020, started working with those initial illustrators. One of them, Franco Luna, just a total beast. And he did Lesser Known Comics #3. I brought visual aids. And Franco's stuff is just was super iconic from the get-go, just really unbelievable artwork. And he so after we did Lesser Known Comics #3, I realized that he was just such like a competent visual storyteller, just like a lot of the folks that we work with, same way that Andrea doesn't need to be told what psychedelic scenes look like. He just handles it on his own. Same thing with like Kieran with Death Wish. Like I don't need to tell him what a race scene looks like. Like he's got it. Franco is everything with like action and blood and guts. And if I tell him like there's going to be a fight scene, like I don't need to choreograph it for him panel by panel. Like that dude's on it. and even to the point where he sometimes changes the endings of my books. So either them or
That's fun.
us. I joke, I'm like, I don't know if like Franco even reads the scripts anymore. It's like, he's
He's
like, no, I'm gonna do some.
looking at the printed book, like, oh yeah, I don't remember writing this. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Robots, got it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got the pages back for either them or us, and the final like 3 or 4 pages were totally different. And he was like, "I changed it; it's better." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is," and so to have such like a competent and confident visual artist working on, you know, my comics, it's like having another writer in there, so I've been so stoked to work with him. And either them or us, it's samurais versus witches in 1980s Japan, so if you like magic, if you like helicopters and like giant grappling hooks being shot through like skyscraper windows and stuff like that, he's all over it, and that's going to be the book for you. um he's got that kind of Claremont-esque style, like, well, not Claremont, but from that Claremont run.
Hmm. Yeah.
um I don't know who the illustrator
I
is
couldn't
working
name
on.
him. Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
all means. Yeah.
But he's just great. And So we hadn't initially tried to do, like, this was never going to be a main story arc that we were working on.
Hmm.
But like they were, so in lesser known comics number 3, like some of the characters that are in it, it starts with like Danny. She's getting met by some witches from Japan who were trying to hide some like artifact that you don't really know. And Danny, has the place to hide it. So he was like, well, let's do more shit with these witches and like let's find out more of their backstory. And so it wasn't a thing that I had planned on developing out so quickly. But when you tell that like an illustrator just like stoked to draw shit, they start sending you like concept art, and you're like, okay, all right, we're doing this. We're doing this part of the
This is
story arc
happening for sure. All right.
right
That's awesome, dude. That sounds like a long time building too. When did Lesser Known Comics number 3 come out? Like that, how it was? I mean, everything was started in 2020. That was what, early 2021?
Cinco de Mayo, 2021.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
cool. That's a good little preview aspect that leads into this arc and into this. Is it going to be continuing after it? Are we looking at future issues and like a whole 6 issue thing that we could expect from you and Franco?
Yeah, so we have a ton of art done, including I think like 13 pages that happen right after Lesser Known Comics number 3 in the timeline. So either them or us happens before this book.
Okay.
So what me and him are still working out is how do we want to jump around the timeline and stuff like that, and not making it too convoluted for the readers. We're like, where are we in on the planet, and like
Mm-hmm.
what year it is. So either them or us, it really focused on the witches and the samurais. It has like a quick um what do you call that, like flashback to like kind of the origins of some of their like feud that they have. And then
Uh-huh.
it carries you on to the 1980s where you're seeing like, you know the near modern, evolution of this like, generations long feud. um
Nice.
so yeah, as we look at 2023, we'll take a look at the pages that are already done, see if we want to fit them into the second issue of either them or us, or save them for something later, and just continue exactly where issue 1 of either them or us leaves off. um, I do like having these like lesser known comics number, whether it be 8 or 9 or 10, where they're like just sneak previews into the universe that kind of just pepper in a little extra detail of who these people are and what's going on. Um, so there's pluses and minuses having in standalone stories versus
Mm.
like having them smattered out, through other people's, through other story arcs.
Okay, cool. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Oh man, I'm excited for that. When does this Kickstarter? When does this going live?
Oh, we went live today, this
Oh, we
morning.
went live today.
Like,
Okay.
Oh,
So
the
actually,
18th,
it's been
yeah.
live for 2 days now because this is coming out Thursday. So
Oh, there it
actually,
is.
check out the link below. Go pledge to that. And we've been timing these Kickstarters awesomely, like the last couple weeks, just the day after they release, 2 days after they release. And dude, that's exciting. So it's doing awesome. I'm gonna straight up say right now, since it's 2 days into this. But what are you, Lesser Known's been balancing a lot of Kickstarters. They've been adding a lot to their library lately. When did you find time to kind of wiggle in this story between running Lesser Known and doing all that wild stuff and handling and juggling all these creators to just kind of sit down and finally like get in your zone and start writing?
yeah, it's been. I have to say, it's been like super hard, just because I had been planning to kind of slow down, in the middle of this year, like
Mm-hmm.
around May and June after batch four. It was like just really exhausted and was like, hey, let's slow down. Maybe we don't release anything for a while, get our stuff in order. And then, Doug Knight was like, no, I'm gonna release Kayas, and like,
Of course, Doug.
and
Of
then
course.
and then as we were releasing Chiasm, David Lujan was like, hey, I got Yuriko and I'm releasing it in September. And I was like, how can I say no to this book?
Yeah.
And
And go
and
check out that
then
interview with David, and
Yeah.
actually go hit us up on Drink and Draw where we talking out with Doug Knight. Did a Daredevil episode, so you can check that one out and see how wild that was. But go on, my bad.
yeah, and then exactly at the same time, I was really surprised to have Chris Weigand, who does the comic book Tights, reach out,
Mm-hmm.
because in my opinion, his Kickstarters have been, you know, as
Mind
or more
blowingly good.
successful. Yeah, they've been so good. And he said, well, I want to come over to Lesser Known Comics. We talked a lot about the fact that I think his book is ready for a bigger publisher, but a lot of times bigger publishers want to wait till like a 4 to 6 issue story arc is completed. He's on issue number 2. So we kind of came up with an agreement. It was like, hey, you can you can hang out in Lesser Known Comics as long as you want. Tights can be part of the catalog as long as you want. And I'm going to be so stoked the day you say, hey, I got an awesome publishing deal and I'm going to, go run with the big kids, now. Like, that would be, that's how I like to do it. And, Digital Lizards of Doom as well has just gone to a bigger publisher. So, um, I'm not really sure if I'm allowed to say which publisher, but I know the contracts are signed.
Nice.
But yeah, so that happened, and then also we got this one. It's a horror show by Jade Lauder, who
Mm-hmm.
he's actually doing some books for Lesser Known Comics, working on scripts I'm writing. He's like, can we get ours out by the end of the year? And I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. So, so I did not intend to have 4 new books in the catalog, like crammed in half a year. So needless to say, like the amount of time for writing has been like really minimal. Luckily, most of Either Them or Us has been done, but when we close like what I call like the campaign season, which will kind of end in November, like right before Thanksgiving, um, hopefully get to take some time, sip some eggnog, like, get back to writing,
Yeah.
and then really plot out what books are going to come out in 2023. Um, the nice part and the hard part are kind of like one and the same. So as I named all those books that we just added to the catalog, they're all going to have sequels. So like when we look at 2023 and we're like, oh crud, like that's 4 months of the year that are already taken for 2023
Mm-hmm.
so I'll be able to kind of space out my stuff in my personal projects in between those. So trying to do that in a way where there's not too much lag time between each release of individual issues, but then also give myself enough time so I'm not like, rushing through work and not doing like the books justice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Because also during that downtime, there's a certain anthology coming out during that period, and that's another thing that we're going to be combing through and being excited to start that Kickstarter and moving that up,
Getting
along with
that
this
going.
special series that's coming out right after that. So yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of it sounds like you're going to be pretty busy. 2023 and months
Yeah.
over half your year's already claimed. It
It's
seems
already
like
planned out in
yeah.
October.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I'm really stoked for that anthology because um, uh, submitting so using from Death Wish, the characters from Death Wish. We were lucky enough to get the blessing from Joey Cape from Lagwagon and Bad Astronaut to give us permission to use Bad Astronaut lyrics for a short like story
nice.
for that. And I was
Hmm.
just like, so I talked to Kieran. I said, hey, like I think we should do something for this punk anthology. Like, hey, we're gonna put out a punk anthology. I want to write something for it. So Kieran and me have always been like super into the same music. He grew up on Warped Tour like the rest of us and stuff like that. Um, he actually did some fan art for the Interrupters that
Oh wow,
Oh
yeah.
they
wow,
reposted.
that's
Yeah,
pretty
and
awesome.
I'm big. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Interrupters as well and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool to see. Um, but actually doing a lot more anthology stuff, and I'm stoked to work on that project with you guys because um, I'm doing another one. I'm submitting a story to Snowy Works. They have the
Hmm.
Future Tales of Sci-Fi that they put out, and then there's another one, the that Indie Comics House Party that we've had sitting in the back burner for a long time, where it's
That's
just
right, yeah.
like a bunch of these like one page little mini crossovers where there's like 50 indie creators that are going to be a part of it, where they're taking the characters from their story and what if they were all at the same house party at the same time. So there'll be short little one page anecdotes of these characters getting to interact, because it's so hard to make like a full crossover, but we can
Hmm.
make one page crossovers together, 2 page crossovers
Yeah,
together.
that would be fun. That's gonna be really
Yeah.
fun. Um, dang, yeah. So a lot's planned, a lot's in the works.
He's like
So
2023 is booked, guys. Let's move forward.
yeah, that's I mean, your scheduling behind everything, your ability to keep this pushing forward. I mean, it's not easy for a comic book company in general, no matter how big or small, to kind of keep afloat and keep consistency, and it sounds like your Kickstarters have been very successful. It sounds like all the people that you have on board are, really doing good, and it's all indie creators, and that's kind of like how we became friends in that sense. We kind of realized that we're both helping the indie scene, and we kind of were able to fuse together, and then we're like, oh, it's just because we have that same punk rock mindset, and we, even this anthology, this was us teaming up together to come up with the concept, and then you kind of guided us through it. We're going to be doing all this with you, and it's kind of wild because punk rock kind of comes down to it. Like, where did music start fusing with your life? I don't think we ever got to talk about it on the show in a sense, like, and into comics. And where did all that come from with you?
Yeah, I think it's that DIY mindset, and I think that's why those 4 new books have been so easy to add to the catalog, because it came from people who were like, um, "I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to learn from my mistakes," and it's been really easy to have conversations with those creators, because we talk about, hey, we're going to chart a course from A to B, but we're not going to end up at B. We're going to end up at X, Y, or Z. And as
Mhm.
long as like we can come back and say, hey, is this better, worse, or just different, and just like, figure it out and like improvise, together. Um, and not surprisingly, yeah, a lot of those people, kind of grow up on the same music, that same kind of like, you know, that was what indie music was in like the early 2000s, right? Where like
Mhm.
they were like, fuck these like major record labels, we're going to put out, if we have to like Xerox copy shit, like
Yeah,
demos and stuff
exactly.
like that. And that's what I did growing up. I used to spend a lot. It used to be called Kinko's before FedEx bought the Kinko
Yeah.
stores.
Yeah.
Um, but um, I used to um, burn the CDs on just like, whatever. and then I would stick them in a sandwich bag, and then I'd have a Xerox copy of like basically like the cover, um, but just coming up with like fun marketing stuff. Like I had two covers for the same demo CD, one that had like a picture of weed and one that had like a picture of beer. So when like people wanted like, we want weed or beer, and
That's
like people were
hilarious.
like, and like and just coming up with like fun marketing shit like that. You know,
Hmm.
um, I don't know if I shared with you guys, but yeah, like when I was 15 is like when I first started putting on punk shows, which was kind of crazy at that age because like I didn't have like a car yet. I wasn't driving, so like I had to like rely on friends to like make that happen. Um, wrote a bad check to myself to like cash it to like pay the venue so that we could host the show. And like, we ended up, you know, doing really well. And that's what I would do every weekend, from the time I was like 15 till like the day I joined the army. And yeah, I think that just comes with like a culture of people who are just like, fuck it, let's try it and let's just
Yeah.
see what happens. Um, it's the journey, not the destination. It's like
Yeah,
road trips. It really doesn't matter like where you went. It's like people remember the road trip.
yeah,
Yeah. The process of getting there is like really like kind of like what you reflect on the most, and kind of like how you how you got to the destination, like you're saying, not necessarily the destination itself.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
it's so cool seeing that evolution from like a punk kid, kind of like it's such similar backgrounds in that sense. Like a bunch of punk kids were just like, "Fuck it, music isn't really panning out in the direction I really wanted music to pan out in," and then somehow comics like were like our saving grace at that point afterwards, and music has just had a big reflection. And when it comes to collaborating and choosing who you're going to be with and surround yourself, and choosing who you're putting in for this project to make this project the best it could be, it's just joining, it's starting bands, and it's finding, oh, this guy does a different genre that like I would love to explore further, and so you go into this new type of music, and it's just like, oh well, I'm doing a series that's this type of thing. It's such a reflection of our musical background. I think that's why it kind of made sense for all of us to kind of go in a much more, I guess, in a way, somewhat more realistic path than music kind of became to be. Um, because you've
Yeah,
written
I
about.
compare it to being like in a band,
Mhm.
but like you don't have to take everyone on tour. Like I don't have to take all
Yeah.
the illustrators and inkers and writers to the convention, right? It's
For
like
3
Yeah.
months on the road nonstop.
yeah,
Yeah. You
stick
got
in the
a
band.
$2 food budget, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's the cool part. And I think that's such a good reflection of like what lesser known has become. You're like the was it Fat Rat Records
Yeah, Fat
of like,
Records.
yeah, fucking of the comic book industry at this point. Like you're starting one of the most independent ways to just jumpstart people who aren't getting jump started. That they're out there putting out their work and fucking making phenomenal stuff, that they finally have a voice. And that was a big part of our platform. And that was just the whole point of just getting people on, was like, how do we get them going? Like, how do we get people to notice them? Because if that was us in those shoes, and I'm sure it was the same way for you, because this was an accidental comic book company, clearly, you just want to get your stuff out there. Like, you just want people to like see that you're making art and comics.
Yeah, it's been really cool that to see other people kind of like coalesce around that movement. I think I mean I have seen the indie comic scene the same way as the indie music scene was in like the early 2000s, right? Um, and people start putting out compilation CDs just the same way as like we're doing anthologies. And what's been really encouraging is now having Comics Wellspring step up as the corporate partner, because they're like a mom and pop print shop that when COVID hit, like when you're printing for businesses and for conventions and conferences and stuff like that as your primary, income, like they were like, shit, like what are we gonna do? And Anthony Greck started Comics Wellspring, and indie comics blew up during COVID, and they largely
Mhm.
credit indie comics for getting them through that. So as they grow their company, so they're now sponsoring Artist Alley at Baltimore Comic Con. They're also a sponsor now of the Ringo Awards. Um, and so they're making
That's so
moves in the
cool.
convention scene, which is awesome. And the most fucking rad part about Comics Wellspring is, you know, they get approached by, other conventions and stuff. And they're like, yeah, but what is your convention doing for indie comics? Because we're not really
Mm,
interested in sponsoring and partnering with conventions that aren't doing stuff for the artists, the creators, the indie comic scene, you know?
that's
And I was
cool.
just like, and when I see that like rhetoric coming from them, I'm like, fuck yeah, that's why we print with you guys. You guys are fucking rad,
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't swear so much because they're a family owned company, but you can quote me on that. Comics Wellspring, fucking
Fucking
rad.
rad.
They like print the banner specifically with your face on it. They're like,
Yes.
take it from Mark. We're rad. Fucking rad.
Yeah. So they have something now called the Comics Unity Project, and it's like brand new. They haven't really messaged a ton from it. I've seen a couple of posts they've done, but it's us, Snowy Works, Sovereign Comics, and then some individual creators like Dan Price, Bigfoot
Mhm.
Knows Karate.
He was just on the show.
Um,
Go check out last episode.
Yeah,
Fucking
there was this
phenomenal.
with us.
And go hang out with Mark, Dan Price, and fucking bunch of other people on I don't know shit about comics too. Go on,
yeah,
Mark.
Dan
Sorry.
Price is another one who's like, he pulled me aside at Houston Comic Palooza and he was like, hey, Mark, you need to do more fucking conventions. Get your shit together because like this is what it's about. Like hanging out with other creators and like just like one of those people who like positively kicks you in the ass and tells
Uh
you to
huh.
get your shit together. And you're just like, oh, Dan's good
Dude,
people. We keep Dan around.
I was on the fence about going to Baltimore Comic Con, and I was just because wild shit and whatnot. And then I thought about that because I remember you telling me that story, and I was just like, nah, I gotta fucking go to this convention. Like, it's gonna be too worth it. And so, yeah, I'm so hyped to see him in person because he is just one of the coolest guys we've ever met. Like, goddamn.
Yeah, there's a lot of people going. Ben Cherry, who did a variant cover for us. I'll dig it out here. Um, and then, yeah, he did this variant cover for us like way back in the day when we had like 3 followers.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yeah.
and Micah Myers, who did a lot of our lettering, he's going to be there. E4 Comics, Homebrew Comics, D. Hausner, who's like, he makes comics and then he's also like a crazy super backer. I think he's backed like a bajillion projects. So I just can't wait to be in the same room with all those people. It like Baltimore is like really one of the most like indie comic centric,
I've
comic book
heard.
conventions left.
I've never been to this one. It's been one I actually have I don't know, Rich Hen goes to it. He's all over the comic book scene as well. I don't know if you might know Rich Hen, I'm not too sure. But yeah, they've talked about it with the buddies that I go to San Diego with, and now that I'm on the East Coast, it's like it's a must. I need to do it. It sounds like the coolest convention on this side of the country because of that. Because all these conventions, I mean, we went to the one in South Carolina together, and it's pretty much the kind of the way conventions have really become very either entertainment focused or anime cosplay manga focused. Where it's like sometimes indie comics in general just have a hard time fitting in to a comic book convention, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that has to go with like the major conventions like San Diego or New York. That's what brings in the most foot traffic. So a lot
Yeah.
of the bigger companies, the bigger publications and all that kind of push more on those. And I think, like when it comes to like smaller ones, like Baltimore, for instance, that's a chance to like give a voice and kind of like an outlet for more independent creators because they're not being like overshadowed so much by like bigger corporations, right?
Hmm.
And so even though it is less foot traffic, it allows them to have more like real estate to like have more of a presence there.
Yeah, I think uh that's really in the Baltimore scene as
Oh,
well.
wow.
Like music shout out is like my buddy was like, "Hey, we're going to a concert in Baltimore." And he took me to it was like a church basement. I was like, "Where are you bringing me?"
You're
And
like, okay, sure.
I saw Angel Dust, Trapped Under Ice, and Turnstile in a random church
It's all
basement.
turnstile in a
That's
church
very
basement.
sick.
That's very like
Like
fitting.
I
I
was,
almost feel like.
and I was just like, this is the coolest thing. Like, and Baltimore's it's a gritty place, but it's got some fucking character. I love that city.
There's
Yeah,
like a lot of random bands that just come out of there, right?
I'm not too sure. Like
I
bands
mean, at
based
least
out of
those
there?
three.
At least those
Yeah.
three.
uh, dude, that's insane. Yeah, honestly, being on the East Coast in general, like, has opened up. I mean, Brandon's fortunate being in San Francisco, and like, since I've been to the East Coast, all I've done is like see music and bands, and it's so fulfilling. And I'm like, how did I even live life before this? And Baltimore's, yeah, I mean, so close to us. Like that entire, it's kind of cool how seeing how much foot traffic you can make in this area, within like 4 or 5 hours. And as an indie publisher, kind of doing like a comic book road trip to promote your book, to hit up shops and everything, it's kind of like a very ideal location in the States to be in this DC kind of region that we're both in.
Yeah, because it's close enough to, yeah, it's 4 hours to New York. So I'm from California, and I'm used to doing a 6 or 8 hour trip down to San Diego or LA. And so the Great Lakes region isn't that far, and the Great Lakes region is awesome for indie comics because
Ooh.
basically, like Michigan, Ohio, um, even like Fort Wayne, Indiana, like all feel like they're like turning into Portland,
Oh wow.
like,
Rad.
but
Yeah.
Portland from like 10, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and like, and you're like, oh, cool. It's just like a bunch of hipsters like drinking like beer and like making comics. Okay,
Oh,
I can
nice.
get into
Yeah.
this scene. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, so from lesser known at your standpoint, like you have a whole year booked ahead of you. You have your comics coming out. You have 1,000 collaborations. Um, I don't even like what is next for you guys. Like, is this the future? Is this like where you're launching? Is there bigger plans that you have, like that you could even talk about or announce, or different techniques that you're going to kind of approach with this next year to get more out there? Or is right now just that indie comic still vibe and just kind of seeing how everything goes is your kind of game plan at this point?
Yeah, I think conventions are a big focus for 2023. And then also kind of taking what we learned and making, um, I guess, a template is the best way to put it, to say, okay, like, because what's been good about the last couple of campaigns is that we've gotten a style down of how we want to run campaigns, and we can bounce the data off of that and say, okay, here's what worked, here's what didn't work.
Mm,
So Yuriko did a lot better than the Chiasm campaign, but Yuriko did a lot better because of the Chiasm campaign. We learned so much. Like, the way Doug ran that campaign was fantastic. We did
yeah.
it really quick because he wanted to make the campaign go on the anniversary of getting the clean bill of health from the cancer hospital.
Hmm.
So we knew that campaign was going to be kind of rushed. So we were able to replicate that into the Yuriko campaign with more lead time, and say, okay, we actually have a process now. So coming into January, what we're hoping to do is we'll probably do like something quarterly where we take those lessons of this is how we launch a book and how we kind of get convention ready for an individual creator. And we'll share that not just within lesser known comics, but also like invite that as a forum that other creators can come in, and they can either just take the lessons learned from it, or they can say, oh, I like what you guys are doing. Like, I'd like to be involved somehow, whether they publish books with us or they collaborate on a certain part of the project. Because we get a ton of submissions where, I've been telling creators a lot, like, if you get a no, like from us, it's not no indefinitely. It's
Hmm.
like no, most likely because I can't give your book the attention that it deserves, like right now.
That
So,
makes sense. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
you
yeah,
know,
totally.
so we'd love to work in a smaller way, like together, in the near future. And then, when that time comes up and we're like, hey, we got capacity for, 4 more books, and we're like, hey, we've worked with this person, in these smaller things for a while. Like this is a good person to bring into the lesser known family. Um,
Mhm.
but um, I think those are the big things I want to focus on. I think I still want to keep us as like the minor league team, the AAA team, where you can still get drunk and like play 9 innings,
Yeah.
and if you want to go to a bigger publisher, like we'll be the first ones to like support you on the way to go do that. Or if you want to break off and do your own thing, because um, for me, the most rewarding part is like taking an idea that was, you know, um, just an idea and actually like bringing it, into like realization, and making a comic book of it. Or like with somebody like Jade Louder, who, you know, um, super, super talented comic
Yeah.
book creator. And
Mhm.
he was just like, I don't really know how to do a Kickstarter, man. And like, cool, I can help you with that part. Like, you just keep making rad art,
Yeah.
like that's an easy partnership.
Mhm. Ah, that's awesome. So it's, I mean, really like seeing the creators, like we were saying from the beginning, like you've seen that this band is fucking kicking ass and they're playing shows and they're trying to get exposure and they have good music and they got to, record the album to have something physical and get it out there and kind of hit the road. Like you're basically that dude that's just like, I fucking see what you're doing. I dig it. Like, let's fucking help you get out there. And I mean, that's what we've done for, I mean, pretty much the majority of our creators have been associated with lesser known comics for that reason. Once we started like our little, friendship, partnership, whatever the fuck it is, it basically just became like a cool, really mutual way to be like, we have these people, like, let's just help to get them out. And it's the funnest thing in the world. And it's so rewarding because of that. Like, you're kind of just, I love that the freaking underdogs behind everything, that talent that's just who's going to get how are people going to get a hold of this because there's so much out there and there's so many art channels out there and there's so many like just distribution wise it's rough and some people are good at making the art but not so good at the publicity and kickstarting like you said. So this is the ultimate platform to kind of be like we can try to figure out how to help you or at least talk to you and eventually get you going.
And you brought up Fat Records, and that's like a super like honoring comparison, because like I was a huge fan of Epitaph and Hellcat
Hmm.
and Fat Records and what they did for the music scene. That's what I want the relationship, especially with that Comics Unity project, with Comics Wellspring and the other creators there, because um, as we work with those folks, like the other publishers that are in that group or other creators that are in that group, I might say, if somebody brings me a comic and they say, hey, you gonna help me put this comic out? And I could say, hey, actually, I think that Snowy Works would be a way better fit, because,
Yeah.
they got this thing coming out that's already kind of in your style and genre, or, they're more geographically like located more ideally for you or whatever. Like, um, and, and I
So
hope that
it's
goes like
not
both
about
ways.
competition, you know what I mean?
No,
It's
it's
Not
about
at all.
support.
yeah.
It just because you're getting redirected to like another publishing company or another publisher isn't necessarily a bad thing. I kind of look at it as like by that comparison to like tattoo artists. Like you really love a certain tattoo artist and it's just like, "Hey, I want you to do this piece." And it's just like, "Oh, that's not really my style, but I got a homie that's like I'm really close with and they'd be perfect for you, you know." And yes, you're both like working independently and doing your own thing, but it's still okay to be that person that's like, "Hey, I'm not the one for you, but I have someone for you," you know? And it's all about just helping each other. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think we have that closest relationship right now with like Snowy Works. We've worked on a couple projects together, like Tales from the Dispatch with
Yeah.
Indie Comics Dispatch, where Drew Lenhart, who runs Snowy Works, is such an awesome dude, because me and him get on the phone and we just say, "How the fuck do we make this book happen?" Doesn't matter if it's published on Snowy Works or it's published on Lesser Known. Like that's kind of irrelevant. Like, as long as
Mhm.
I'm happy, you're happy, the
Yeah.
illustrators and creators are
Get the art
happy.
out there.
Like because it all comes full circle anyway. The healthier indie comic scene is, like, the better off we all are, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And
Oh,
it's just
100%.
opens up for more collaboration, opens up for more, networking. And, it's hard enough to get like one book off the ground sometimes. And I mean, fuck yeah, it's hard enough to get any book off the ground in general and, of series made. So doing this kind of gives us everybody a bigger opportunity to see like, oh, well, I love what they were doing with this person. Let me reach out to them because we were both publishing this anthology together, like, and really kind of brings people together. And that's where some of the coolest side bands came from back in the day, is they would just be playing shows together or get thrown on a tour together, and then they end up like being like, well, look at fucking LS Dunes. That's like the ultimate fucking super group I'm obsessed with right now. That's how all that comes together, is because there's not competition when you're all making art and just enjoying each other's art and trying to push each other forward. And I think in a lot of different mediums, especially in the world, and even if you look at sports or almost anything else, it's always about competition and who's going to get this part or this role or stuff like that. When here, getting accepted into something, it's more just like, no, I want to fucking get as many of you guys out there. Like, and
Yeah.
that's the cool thing with the punk anthology too, is that the way things are turning out, I mean, we've had some killer submissions. I want to get as many people out there and published and push them forward and plan some stuff and make people happy with it. Because if I was in their position, which I am in their position, which is why we started making this whole thing, it's to just help each other out. And it's like, well, if I give you a boost, like you give me a boost, sharing each other's content on Instagram is that same type of connection that we kind of do for each other in a micro way, in a sense.
Yeah, and when it's happening the right way, it never feels like tit for tat, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't repost people's shit because I'm like, oh, I owe them one. Like
Hmm.
I see it and I'm like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I'm stoked about, this comic that Royal Oaks is doing,
Yeah.
and like I'm just like I just want to fucking talk about it, Um and especially like after doing this, um anytime I run into people who like made and printed a book, like whether it's 6 pages or it's 60 pages or it's, 150 pages, like I'm like so impressed by anybody who's fucking because I like realized how fucking hard,
Yeah.
it can be. Um and like wake up, and you got that voice inside you that's like, don't fucking do this. This is a waste of your time. You're stupid and everyone hates you. Like everyone gets like that voice, and it's like you gotta like tune it out and like fucking still do it. Show up to some conventions, sometimes you don't sell any books, sometimes you sell a lot, Um, uh, you hear some like troll say some shitty thing about like your whatever, and like still like anyone who's persevering through that, like even if like they're making like fucking stick figures, and stapling it together on Xerox paper, like I have so much like profound respect for like just the fucking art of just getting up every day and doing it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough shit.
it is. But
Like,
the
Like I'll
first step
fight
is
I'll
like
fight a motherfucker on their behalf, like
yeah. Yeah.
it's hard, like it's hard to just like create something and then finish it.
Hmm.
And to your point about like the stick figure thing, like it doesn't matter what it is. If you started, that's a big step, and if you've finished, that's even a bigger one. And then the next one is like to make yourself sociable and put it out there and connect. It's something that like it takes a lot, and it takes a lot out of someone that it deserves the utmost respect to be able to go and do that.
Well, that's a big reason why Danny and I started this whole drink and draw live thing on Thursday nights too. Because like I don't know how to fucking draw, and that was the whole point, was to be like, I don't know how to draw, and then for me to start to learning how to draw stuff, like I'm just gonna do it live on my show with a friend who does draw and does make cool stuff, so at least somebody can see something nice while we're doing all this. And it was just more of like every Thursday, dude, we're gonna hang out and we're gonna try to do this. And I want it to be able to encourage people to be like, hey, dude, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm doing it live to show you that you can do it too. And I'm not being embarrassed by it. I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna share it with everybody. And it doesn't matter how shitty it is, like, or how it came out. It's like it's more of as encouragement to be like, guys, if this is what you want to do, just fucking get up and do it. And it's possible because we do it once a week. Right now, we're doing that Inktober stuff, which is a drawing a day, which is fucking insane and hard, and I suck at it and I'm behind. But it's like so rewarding at that point too, because then you kind of see other people who are trying to do that as well. and you're all just like, guys, we're in it. It's like a hard workout where you guys are all fucking busting ass and shit, and like you all complete it. You're like, we're fucking done. We did it. We survived, and you feel so much better. You never regret doing it at a certain point, because it's all creative shit. It's kind of cool. It's like the coolest things in the world that anyone can be doing, and the like most sincere, happiest, like no bullshit type of method is what's happening here. And you just don't get that a lot from a lot of people. You don't get that a lot from publishers, publications, people that are running a business, because lesser known comics is a business. And I mean, that competition factor is so heavy. And when you look, I worked in marketing for a while, like, who's your competition? Who's your competition? It was never about helping the other player. It's about how I could get more and be greedy and do everything about it. Like, you guys are just sharing love and sharing each other's art. And it's what's really needed. And I feel like it's encouraged a lot of people, and it'll continue to have that effect as time goes on.
Well, I think that goes back to like that like Buddhist philosophy of like if you want to be happy, like stop trying to be happy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that goes a long way of like, how um if you want to be successful in the indie comic scene, like stop trying to be stop trying to be successful. The guy who's he's going to come to our team later, his name's Mike Sears. He does a book called Kill the Rabbit Man, and he was on an interview and he was like, somebody asked him like, are you going to do this for a living, make comics? And he's like, I'm going to learn how to make comics like that make me happy, like in a way that makes me happy, and then like I'll figure out the business part after I figure out that part. And
Nice.
I
Yeah.
was just like, yeah. And a lot of it's, yeah, just fucking doing it like we said, so um we talked about that forum and that roundtable with creators and bringing up the
Yeah.
stuff that we want to do, because we're going to try and do 10 awesome things in 2023, and we're probably only going to do 2 of them.
Yeah, of
But
course. Yeah.
somebody's going to look at the other 8 things and they're going to be like, I can do one of those. And we're going to be like, fucking go for it. The same the way what you did with the punk anthology.
Mm-hmm.
I had told creators over and over and over again, I said, if you're putting out a book, ideally you should put out an anthology in the same theme of that book like a year before that book comes out. So if it's a vampire book, put out a vampire anthology. Sci-fi book, you put out a sci-fi anthology. Works does that. He has sci-fi books and he puts out sci-fi anthologies.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you got a punk book, in the works. So the idea that you guys are going to do a punk anthology, is like, well, someone took the fucking idea that I wish I was doing because it's a rad idea. It doesn't matter who's doing it, just fucking do it,
Yeah.
So that's been really encouraging with the Comics Unity project, because we actually meet. There's a panel of so Comics Wellspring chairs the meeting, and then we do. I think there's like a half a dozen creators and publishers that are on there, and I we talk about these cool ideas, and some of them land in my lap, but not all of them land in my lap. Somebody else
Mm-hmm.
will raise their hand and be like, "Oh, I can fucking do that." Cool. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who gets it.
Yeah. It's so exciting, and it's cool. I mean, it's really like like what Apollo does as a essence. Our goal as a podcast is what you guys are doing as a company, and that's why like the bond has been there the whole time, and the friendships and opportunities have been there the whole time too. But as we wrap up, Brandon, did you have anything else for Mark before we?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, we kind of went into multiple topics, but I just wanted to pick Mark's brain about a few things when it comes to lesser known. Um, so what I wanted to ask real quick was, either them or us is like a full on like book that's not a small snippet of like this bigger universe of lesser known comics, right? Oh, Death Wish, was that like your first book that was like this is a book that's gonna be more than just like a short story, like continuous, expanding the lore, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think I don't know why we decided Death Wish, because it still shares some of the characters, within the larger like lesser known universe that I'm
Mm-hmm.
building, you know, but um uh the the goal is to continue doing some of those snippets. I still think those like mini comics that are like 6 to 10 pages, those are a great way to try out new illustrators to find out like, hey, do we enjoy working with each other,
Uh-huh.
and so you'll see lesser known comics number 8, number 9, number 10 come out, throughout the year in 2023 and beyond. But yeah, those longer ones, all the characters within those will eventually get their own spin-off,
Yeah.
you know. And I would like to say I have control over that, but like with Franco, like
Yeah,
Franco
it
was
just
like,
happened.
Yeah.
he's like, oh fuck it, we're doing samurais and witches now, Mark, and I was like, okay, like
Hey.
if you're stoked, I'm stoked.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess my question really was like you already answered it. It was like how you go about choosing these. And it just the artist is like, we're gonna do it, and you're like, okay. I guess
Yeah,
there is no way to go about it.
yeah. It a lot of times it because how it really works, most of us are doing this. We have, like a 9 to 5 job that's paying the bills, and then we're doing this, in our spare time. Or, maybe some people are just working part time and they're putting more effort, into the comic making process. Um, so there's folks like Dave Law, who me and him have been talking about doing a comic together for a year and a half. And like after a year and a half, we're only like in initial scripting,
Hmm.
so like you just never know how long it's going to take for one idea to like come to fruition. So to say that you're going to focus on one idea, there could be a myriad of factors, because Dave Law is a freelance artist. So if he's booked and he's got, other stuff going on, I don't want to wait around for him. And he also doesn't want to wait around for me. So we kind of just keep it warm, until like the planets align and we're able to jump on an opportunity. So we're doing something for the Snowy Works anthology. My first foray into superhero storytelling, which I'm pretty fucking stoked about. Um, uh, and but yeah, like Jade Louder, who keep plugging his book because it comes out after either them or us. Um, he said, "Hey, I'd like to take on a portion of the story arc for the lesser known universe," and um, he just started doing it, and he was like, he works very fast, and I was like, oh shit, like this book will probably come out. So he's doing one called Dead and Still Dying. It's like it takes place like Chris and Danny's relationship before they know each other, like officially. Um, and it's a lot of it's based on like my small town growing up experience. And like I did not intend on that being a story that was going to be one that we were pushing out in 2023, but the dude's cranking out art for it, and I was like, oh, okay, fuck it, I
Here
guess
you
we're
are.
doing this
Yeah.
thing now. You know, yeah, I think a
Nice.
lot of it. Yeah, you just got to go with the illustrators that are excited. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
You got someone that's like, yo, lesser known number 7. This is the one. And you're like, okay, let's draft up some sort of script, right?
and that's nothing against the illustrators who like that. Because there's some folks, like Andrea. We did 3 comics together, but you know, I had to slow stuff down because we had so many books backlogged that we hadn't
Hmm.
released yet. So he's in the middle of doing a book for us, but then he also just got a rad job where he's like traveling around and doing art, for a company where he's doing like visual maps and stuff.
Oh,
It's
that's
kind of hard
cool.
to explain, but it's pretty dope,
Yeah.
and it's like cool. Like me and Andre are cool. When the planet's back in line, we're gonna work on that book, and we're gonna get out. Yeah, that's the Oaklandia story arc, and like we're gonna fucking do that one. But right now it's just kind of weird timing. So it's just a matter of like preserving that relationship and that friendship, and then we can just jump back in it. When the timing's right.
Of course,
And that's
yeah.
the cool thing about like comics and art is that like we all kind of want to rush and put them out right now because we want it out to be out now. But this is kind of also meant to like stamp against the test of time, you know? Like we want these books to still kind of be in someone's box or floating around long past us, you know? So like eventually it's going to be a collective thing, and it just takes time. Might take a fucking lifetime to fucking get everything out that you want to get out, and then you'll still have so many stories you still want to tell. But I mean, it's just one of those things, you just do it when you can, and just having the opportunity and jumping at it when it's presented is better than just like stopping it and giving up. Like it's just, maybe it's just not time yet, and a lot of people freak out about that, and it's something that, you know, we've all had to learn to a certain degree of just like patience and knowing it'll happen if you keep it going, and preserving relationships and understanding, and knowing that's kind of like the creative life. It's going to take your art, you know, isn't a homework assignment. It's not due on Monday. You know, it's due when it's like complete and ready to come out and be, you know, shared to the world and shit. It's fucking
Totally.
wild.
Yeah, I had
Yeah, it,
a
it feels like it goes slow, and then you wake up one day and you're like, man, we have made a shit ton of comic
Yes.
books,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and like, and it's cool because my kids are too young now, you know, they're 1 and 3, but at
Mm-hmm.
some point, you know, we have to have a conversation with my daughters and tell them, you know, you can do anything you put your mind to. And they're going to be like, oh, is that why you worked in cybersecurity your whole life? That was always your dream? And I'd be like, you know, like I have to be able to be like, no, like I fucking did this thing, you know,
He's
and you
like,
can do it too.
he pulls the short box out. Let me show you something about a company I created, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, it's awesome. And it's awesome having you on the show, because
Yeah,
this is probably the most formal conversation we've ever had. I
probably.
feel
Yeah.
like
Let me just say it's nice to hear your voice and see your face again, Mark. It's been a while for me, at least, and
Mhm.
it's
It's
good
been
to
a
know that
while.
it's been a while. It's under the conditions of my horrible allergies and me feeling like crap. Sorry ahead of time, but it's great to see you again. It's great to hear
You
from you
too,
again.
man. It's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
it's just it's nice to be in a room as always, or virtual space, I guess you could say, amongst people that just share passion, and to see your passion. It's a nice like spark to reignite, and just it's awesome. Seriously.
Yeah, you guys are doing great shit. And you know, I did not know that this anthology was going to blow up the way it
Yeah.
did,
It
you
almost
know,
did.
and
Oh, trust
you
me.
guys, you guys are sitting on a fucking awesome thing. And like, I think it's going to end up being something that you guys are going to be stuck with that thing for, you know, perhaps a
Yeah.
decade, you know,
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
I'm fine.
and it's going to be awesome, you know, so you guys are doing the Lord's work.
And I mean, that was the whole point of Apollo when I started it fucking almost 4 years ago now, as we approach our anniversary episode. Is fucking, you know, I was writing for comic book websites, doing comic book reviews, and I was interviewing artists and creators and celebrities and shit. And then that kind of like stopped because those companies stopped. And I was like, well, how the fuck am I going to break into comics now? Because I thought that's how I was going to network and break into comics. And I mean, dude, just testament of time. I started the show with the intention of like, I'm gonna network and make comics soon. It's been 4 years, and 4 years into it, I'm barely at the making comics part. And it's just like, it just takes time and devotion to whatever you're trying to do, and it's gonna fucking happen. Um, a lot of stuff is happening next year, so I'm pretty fucking hyped. It's pretty sweet. And yeah, it's all thanks to meeting people like you, and you know, aligning with that vision, and you know, curating that relationship we've had by just having you on a guest. We don't network that much with every guest that, you know, we've had on over the last couple of years, and some people have stuck around and give us updates, and some people don't. But I'm glad that our friendship from, you know, from the start has just kind of blossomed since we had you on that retro episode back in 2021 summer sometime. Fucking rad, dude. It's super cool. Like, so thanks for being on, Mark. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for
anytime, guys.
thanks for
Definitely.
just being you, honestly.
Yeah, now we're just like blowing you at this point. We're
I,
just
Yeah, I
I
like
know,
feel
right?
we're just like
I
crying
feel
and
the
shit.
love in this virtual
This is gonna get
space.
to the Patreon exclusive
Yeah,
aspect of this episode.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll speak soon. I'll see you at Baltimore Comic Con. We'll be hanging there. And yeah, thanks for hanging.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.